Hello and welcome to Security Scan. I am Uday Bhaskar. The focus this week is on India's maritime security in all its variants, from the strategic level that includes aircraft carriers and nuclear submarines, to the other end of the spectrum, which encompasses what is often referred to as the policing and constabulary functions of any maritime force. With a vast coastline of about 7,600 kilometers, island territories on both sides of the peninsula, a sizable exclusive economic zone or EEZ, and seaborne trade, the greater part of which moves by ship, there are many strands to India's composite maritime security, including the safety of major ports and the long coastline and the EEZ in general. India's maritime vulnerability came into sharp focus in November 2008 when Mumbai was the target of an audacious terrorist attack, and many lessons were learned in that tragic experience. 8 years later, what is the profile and index of India's composite maritime security? To discuss this, we have an eminent panel. Vice Admiral Anil Chopra, formerly CNC of both the operational commands East and West and a former DG of the Coast Guard. Commodore Ranjit, a former Director Naval Intelligence and a very astute naval analyst. And Dr. Pushpita Das of the IDSA, who has been working on coastal security. Let me turn to you first, Admiral Chopra. 8 years later, after what happened in Mumbai, there is a general sort of sense that are we adequately prepared and have we learned the right lessons after Mumbai, November 2008? How would you frame it? Because you've done both Coast Guard and the Navy.
Well, I think there has been considerable improvement since that day 8 years ago. Primarily, I think both capacity and capability has been built across all the maritime forces, and especially in the Navy and Coast Guard. There has also been a structured attempt to improve coordination between these forces, and I must say it has been successful to quite some degree. There are, however, areas which we need to work on, and they are primarily in the field of intelligence coordination between the spate of intelligence agencies which function in this country, as also in setting up a structure, perhaps what we call a national apex maritime authority, which would help to coordinate policy and to ensure that there is no duplication of effort and iron out all the differences which do come up when there are a large number of agencies which operate in a particular sphere. As you all know, maritime security and especially coastal security involves a host of organizations and departments of the Government of India, and it is not an easy task to coordinate policy in between these organizations.
So would it be fair to say that the glass is half full?
I would think so, more than half full.
More than half full.
But we need not get complacent about the
But I'll come back to you, if I may, as far as the coastal states are concerned, because this is an issue that came up in 2008. But
Sure.
Commodore Rai, if I could ask you, what about the ports of India? After all, Mumbai is a major port. And what happened in 2008 showed up the vulnerabilities. So two issues here. Major ports in India and the coastal states. How are they dealing with their responsibilities?
Absolutely. To come to ports, you must first realize the sea is porous. There are no roads, there's no indicators. Therefore, the entry to the port is porous. To guard it. To maritime awareness, there are two things. The maritime domain awareness. And as the Admiral has explained to you, the Coast Guard and the Navy have moved forward because NC3I under the Cabinet Secretary and secretaries of the government states, maritime states, did it. He's absolutely right. The glass is much more than half full after 2008. But on the shore side, the coastal domain awareness, the Admiral has quite put it, intelligence on maritime has not improved. The Sagari police in Bombay is still struggling to get a building. They cannot get volunteers to be trained to go in boats. The boats to be manned have to have men who have salt in their veins. Yes, the ports have got very good security now. You can't enter a port without biometric. You can't enter a naval dockyard without biometric. But around the port, which is in congested cities, they are vulnerable. So I would like to say that Admiral is absolutely right. The Coast Guard and the Navy, with more OPVs, with more interceptor boats, and the Agar Prahari, which the Navy thought about. 1,000 people who only man small boats, we've moved right ahead.
So we are, as you rightly said, that it is more than half full as far as ports are concerned. Again, I'm going to come back to you about how does India compare in the larger regional and global context, especially when we compare ourselves with, say, ports like Singapore. But just hold that thought. Dr. Das, I recall that when we spoke about coastal security, you perhaps are one of the few analysts that I know of who has actually visited a coastal police station. So two areas that you might want to focus on and help our viewers to understand. What is the current level of operational readiness as far as coastal police stations are concerned? And would you care to make an assessment about which states have invested adequately in this area?
As far as marine police is concerned, as you know that it came into being after the coastal security scheme was introduced in 2006 and 2005. But as far as the performance of the marine police across different states are concerned, it is a wide spectrum. While we have states who have accorded quite top priority to the coastal security, and they have adequately invested in the development of marine police, but there are a lot of states who do not think that there are any kind of threats which are coming from the sea, and therefore they have kind of neglected the marine police, and as a result of the state's perception towards coastal security, the marine police is suffering a lot. So there are a number of states who have been encountering threats from the sea for a long time, and they have invested a lot. For example, I can take the name of Tamil Nadu, who have done considerably good amount of work, and they have also invested a lot on marine police. But there are other states like Maharashtra, which has been the target of terrorist attack for a long time. There seem to be a little bit of apathy as far as coastal security.
Well, let me put it this way. Last year when I visited a coastal police station outside of Mumbai, I'm afraid their level of infrastructure preparedness was well below the median. But tell me about West Bengal. I remember you had visited a police station in West Bengal. What is the sense there?
West Bengal, again, I will say that the state government do not accord
the level of priority
to coastal security.
Okay, let me ask the former CNC of Mumbai, Admiral Chopra. You've been in Vizag as CNC, Mumbai as CNC, and DG Coast Guard. So when you look at coastal states, what is your assessment professionally? Where are they in terms of their ability to move from 0 to 5 miles or whatever be their tasking?
Well, my view is somewhat contrarian
to
what has been expressed here. Marine police is required, coastal police is required, but I think it's a bit unfair to ask police organizations to suddenly transform themselves into mariners and go out to sea even a short while to sort of for patrolling and surveillance. The marine police has very important should I say, functions, but they are in the domain of the legal, should I say, sector, plus in patrolling the coast next to the sea. I would think that if we create too many seagoing or organizations, you may again have more duplication or triplication than is probably required. I would think that in the coastal belt, the Coast Guard is more than adequate for seaward patrolling and surveillance, and of course the Navy is there beyond that. Most people don't realize that you cannot divide even the maritime zones of India or the sea adjacent to the coast into concrete silos because of the nature of threat may be very different. For example, if there is a threat from submarines, it has to be handled by the Navy, even if it is just 4 miles from the coast. So various organizations have to deal with various types of threats rather than being compartmentalized by distance from the coast.
Since you offered a contrarian point of view, as you call it, let me just sort of flip this and say, after 2008, we are 8 years down the road. So have we done anything to improve even the level of legislation or responsibilities that devolve on states and center? Because we often say that policing in India is a state subject. So to that extent, has there been any institutional kind of review?
Yes, I would think so. I think one of the things which has been accomplished is that there is a much larger awareness in state governments and in state police forces of issues maritime, and they are certainly aware of the broader threats. To transform them into maritime forces is where I came in as something which may take very long if it is pursued, but I have a view that you can transform the policing function of the coastal police more inland and ashore rather than put them out into sea. So that's where I would think my view is a little different, but certainly the state governments, the coastal states are integrated into the National Committee on Coastal and Maritime Security, and the Government of India spends a lot of time in addressing and making people aware of maritime
But let me
issues.
put it this way to you, Commodore Rai. It appears that there is, not enough clarity because many initiatives are being mooted. More recently, the Home Minister made a statement which was endorsed by the Chief Minister of Maharashtra that has the time come for the equivalent of a central maritime police force equivalent or a paramilitary. So two questions for you. One is, how is this being done in other countries which have a similar spectrum as far as threats and challenges are concerned? And what about this grey area between state police and is there a need for a central maritime force? Commodore Rai?
Well, the Constitution says the state is responsible for the police. So therefore, the center cannot impose too much. But to add to what you have said, you must understand a lot has been done for the approaches. The Admiral Chopra has told you about it. Indian Maritime Analysis Center has been created. The AIS has improved. The LRIT, which is an international organization you asked about, gives you the inputs. So in Delhi and in all the MRCCs, you're getting a picture of everything that is at sea. If he doesn't transmit AIS, he's caught with a radar, 46 coastal stations. The DATs, distress alert transmitters, have been provided by Gujarat and Tamil Nadu, as she says, but some states have not given the fishing boat. He can press the button and the MRCC knows he's in danger or a terrorist attack or a fire or whatever. Therefore, you must see a lot has been done at sea. But you're right. If you produce another organization, you're creating a silo. In foreign countries that you ask, the Coast Guard is very powerful for policing function in a big way. In the United States, they do the port control also. So I think the defense minister did make a statement. We all know it came in the media. There were pros and cons to it. But we haven't got a maritime security advisor to look after the 13 ministries. But yes, from the seaward side, the glass is much more than half full. We have to bring up the shore side, as Pushpita has said, the marine police, their organization, and volunteers who want salt and go to sea
As
5 or
opposed
6,
to-
7, 8 miles from the shore. And you know, a policeman doesn't like to do that. There is more action ashore.
May I come in here for just a minute to underline that since you asked, that we certainly don't need another organization to go out to sea.
Over and above what we already have.
This would be infructuous and would create further problems.
I'm going to
of
come back to you on that, Admiral Chopra.
Okay.
Pushpita, can you just help us to understand what was the official statement on this? Because I remember, again, different ministers had made, shall we say, different responses to this proposal. Can you just help us to the chronology of who said what?
Actually, the whole issue of establishing a central marine police force started when the Home Minister on 16th June during the review meeting on coastal security said that he was quite welcoming of the idea that we should have a central marine police force, which the Chief Minister of Maharashtra had proposed.
Mr. Fadnavis.
Mr. Fadnavis. And we had 4 chief ministers of coastal states endorsing it. But this is not the new proposal actually, because we know that the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Home Affairs had submitted a report on coastal security in April 2014, and they had also proposed that the centre should think about establishing what they call as a Marine Indian Reserve Battalion. And the whole idea of establishing a central marine police force stems from the fact that most of the coastal states are not they are reluctant to shoulder the responsibility of coastal security, and they want that the functioning of the marine police should be funded entirely by the centre. Yes.
Admiral Chopra, this is the point in the discussion where you can make serious policy recommendations, and I do know that the Navy in the past has mooted this idea of APEX, a maritime security advisor, or some way of tweaking the system. My recall is that chiefs from 2008 onwards, or perhaps even before that, have made this point. So since you're on Rajya Sabha TV and you are in a position to perhaps offer some policy suggestions, what would you prioritize? What should the system be doing?
Well, I think I just underlined what I think is the highest priority, and that is for creating a body which can coordinate maritime affairs, maritime security affairs, especially in the coastal belt and the EEZ. I think this has been recognized, but it has not yet been put into place, and I would highly recommend that that is done in whichever manner the government deems fit. And but there is a requirement of such a body. There is no requirement of creating another force. Having one more intelligence agency does not provide better intelligence.
Sure.
Neither does one more force provide better security. I would argue that the business of national police, coastal police versus state coastal police is basically a question of funding and money. The states find it difficult to allocate funds for their coastal police setups, and therefore they are quite keen that this be taken on by the centre.
Would you include training also in this?
Yeah, but training, yes, very much so. But my point is that there is a function for the police, whether coastal or whether state or national, and that function is to patrol the coastline on the landward side with all sorts of vehicles to improve their ability to process the legal aspects of people who are caught by the Coast Guard or by the Navy, and a whole lot of other sizable work which can be done by the police in their domain with respect to coastal security. There is no need for the police to jump into the water, so to speak, and start patrolling the immediate
because
waters.
We have other agencies that can do this.
Between the Coast Guard and the Navy, as in most countries, this is done in constabulary fashion, and there's no need for a third force. In fact, as you know, in China, there were 5 maritime forces. They have been integrated into one Coast Guard. And there are issues between, there are issues of coordination even between the Navy and Coast Guard, as you know, and which in India are now progressing well. And I don't think there is a need to clutter up the seaward issue with integration of a seaward going force. That's what
Commodore Rai, 2 issues again. One is the recently passed merchant shipping bill. Does it have any reference to security? And second, is there a need for any kind of tweaking of the law? Because when you talk about any criminality, either in a port or at sea, as Anil, as Admiral Chopra pointed out, it has to go through the legal process. So is our existing legal infrastructure adequate? Forget the fact that we have a backlog which is from the Supreme Court downwards. That's a different issue. But existing law, is it compatible with what is happening in the maritime domain?
Well, the Merchant Shipping Act was ancient and it was not keeping in touch. So you are absolutely right. The new Merchant Shipping Act has been tabled. It will now have to be passed in the Parliament. As far as I could remember of what I read, there are three good clauses. One, there will be a convoy system for piracy, which the Indian Navy and the Coast Guard have proved. India became piracy free near its close waters and now off Somalia. So that has been incorporated. It has tried to force registration of fishing boats. At present, they are supposed to register, and Mumbai, if I remember, the police ordered colors on the boats. So there is some sort of registration that every boat jolly well get registered by the Merchant Shipping Act. Otherwise, boats below 300 tons. And there is a third clause by which the notification of every state of the boats and how they will operate is giving powers to the maritime coastal states to be able to police. I believe the Maharashtra government alone has got over 2 lakh fishing boats outside its waters. And at present, it's optional. They cannot be forced. And also the distress transmitters force. So the Merchant Shipping Act brings in 3 small amendments. The rest is, of course, how the maritime mercantile system works. Quick registration of ship, quick interviews for your master's tickets, etc.
So things are moving in the right direction. Pushpita, for you as an analyst, having heard the Admiral and the Commodore, what would you recommend as a policy issue that our system needs to focus on?
As far as coastal security is concerned, I also agree with the Admiral that the Coast Guard should be given the single authority for coastal security. And for that, if it has it in its charter, coastal security. So first, the Coast Guard should be given the overall authority for coastal security. And second is, of course, the establishment of an apex body or national commission, something like the Borders and Coastal Security Commission, which will not only formulate policies for the existing and emerging threats, but it should also coordinate amongst the various agencies which are involved in coastal security.
Well, I would say that perhaps we need more young analysts like you working on coastal security. But at the end of the day, India's maritime security challenges and opportunities are both complex and varied, as our discussion has just revealed. While Mumbai 2008 was a traumatic experience, in the intervening years, a concerted effort has been made to enhance capacity and the interagency coordination. Yet there are many wrinkles that need to be ironed and capacity gaps that call for an effective national maritime blueprint and a steady infusion of funds, both material and human resource. Despite being the smallest of the 3 armed forces, the Indian Navy, ably complemented by the Indian Coast Guard, has acquired a creditable profile in the extended Indian Ocean region, whether it is the tsunami effort of late 2004 or subsequent humanitarian evacuations. The Indian Navy has done the nation proud. Concurrently, the achievements in indigenous warship design and building has given the Navy a distinctive Make in India head start. The nuclear submarine, the Arihant, symbolizes this determination and the steady progress made across the board. Prime Minister Modi has been advocating Sagar, security and growth for all in the region, with India as a net security provider. This focus on the maritime domain is valuable and hopefully marks the beginning of the end of India's traditional sea blindness. But it's a long voyage to realize India's vast maritime potential, and the collective effort must be sustained. On that note, let me thank my guests, Admiral Chopra, Commodore Rai, and Dr. Das. And thank you for watching Security Scan. Goodbye.